Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the Daily Gardener. I'm your host, Jennifer Ebling. It's August 28th. This past month, I started looking around for the perennials I wanted to divide. You know, we had that terrible hailstorm, and then we decided to add new siding and windows. And so everything around the house got all tore up. The garden looks pretty bad. So I don't feel bad about digging up my plants. They look tough anyway. This is a great year for me to divide perennials. I always start with my hostas, in part because they recover so quickly. Next spring, you'll never know that they were transplanted this fall. And the other thing I love about hostas is they make a fabulous ground cover. If you have chronic creeping Charlie, creeping buttercup, or creeping anything, plant a hosta. It can handle the creepers, and even if they manage to survive under the dense canopy of your hosta, they're just not as vigorous, and you won't see them anyway. Here's today's Brevities. On this day in 1773, the French explorer and botanist Aimé Bonpland was born. Bonpland had traveled with Alexander von Humboldt throughout Latin America for 5 years, from 1799 to 1804. He collected and classified 6,000 new plants, and he co-authored many books about his discoveries. In one of his journals, he wrote this: "We had just arrived at a town where the locals invited us to eat a dish called enchiladas. When I tried it, my tongue burned and I started to sweat. I was told that this feeling is due to a fruit called chili. I have to analyze it." And here's a little trivia about Bonpland. When Napoleon's wife Josephine died, Bonpland was present at her deathbed. Today in 1798, the first American vineyard was planted 25 miles from Lexington, Kentucky. It was started by a Swiss immigrant named John James DuFour. He established the very first successful commercial vineyard and winery in America. He called it the First Vineyard. DuFour had read newspaper accounts of the American Revolution as a young boy in Switzerland. What struck him most was something that the French fighters had said. They were fighting alongside the colonists, and they bemoaned the fact that they didn't have any wine to drink in America. It left an impression on DuFour. His grandfather and father were both vine dressers in Switzerland. DuFour wanted to bring their winemaking skills to America. In 1796, DuFour went to America. He made a point of visiting Thomas Jefferson's Monticello and other estates. DuFour noticed they were working with wild grapes, which he felt were inferior. After 1 year of success with the first vineyard, DuFour wrote to his father, brothers, and sisters in Switzerland, inviting them all to join him. 17 members of his family made the voyage to America, and after they arrived, DuFour petitioned Congress for the privilege of getting land in Indiana. The area had a steep valley, and it reminded the Swiss family of home. Congress granted the special approval for DuFour. By 1806, the first wine was made from the vineyard in Indiana, known as the Second Vineyard, and the area became known as New Switzerland. And today is the birthday of the man known as the King of Colorado Botany, Charles Christopher Perry, who was born on this day in 1823. Parry discovered both the Torrey pine and the Engelmann spruce, which gives you a clue about his impressive mentors. Although he rubbed shoulders with the best botanists of his time, Parry's focus was not academic. He was more interested in making sure the public and the common man benefited from his work. In 1845, while he was at college, Parry's teacher was the great John Torrey. Parry was good friends with Asa Gray, who was also a student of John Torrey. In 1848, Parry learned about the botanical trade from the star of the Missouri Botanical Garden, George Engelmann. In the summer of 1862, he brought Elihu Hall and J.P. Harbor on an expedition to Colorado. The men gathered 10 sets of over 700 species. According to William Weber, their effort remains the largest collection ever made in Colorado in a single season. Parry spent 20 summers in Colorado in a cabin nestled between Torrey Peak and Gray Peak, mountains he named after John Torrey and Asa Gray. Parry named another mountain Eva Peak in honor of his wife. He even named one mountain Mount Flora. In 1870, during a visit to England, Parry met the master botanist of his age, Sir Joseph Dalton Hooker, director of the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew. In fact, it was Hooker who referred to Parry as the king of Colorado botany. And it wasn't just Colorado that Parry explored. He traveled throughout the West, amassing over 30,000 specimens for his herbarium. When Parry was collecting in California, he continued his habit of recording his thoughts into notebooks. Occasionally, he waxed poetic about the landscape. In one example from his time in California, he wrote, "A newborn moon hangs her crescent over the western hills, and by its full-orbed light, we hope to see our way to winter quarters on the Pacific." Today is the birthday of Roger Torrey Peterson of Peterson's Field Guide to Birds fame. He was born in 1908. Peterson not only wrote the guides, he also illustrated them. He was the noted American naturalist who brought the natural world to the masses in the 20th century. A son of Jamestown, New York, Peterson helped new generations of people fall in love with ornithology. Peterson admired the gumption of the common starling. He felt blue jays had a lot of class, and he said the house sparrow was an interesting darn bird. Peterson once famously described a purple finch as a sparrow dipped in raspberry juice. When it came to the Audubon oriole, Peterson quipped that its song was like a boy learning to whistle. And what was Roger Torrey Peterson's favorite bird? The king penguin. Here are some famous Peterson quotes. "Few men have souls so dead that they will not bother to look up when they hear the barking of wild geese. Birds are indicators of the environment. If they're in trouble, we know we'll soon be in trouble." And finally, the book, The World of Roger Torrey Peterson, is worth a read if you can get a copy. In today's Unearthed Words, here's an excerpt from a poem called August by Celia Thaxter. Buttercup nodded and said goodbye. Clover and Daisy went off together, but the fragrant water lilies lie yet moored in the golden August weather. The poet Celia Thaxter grew up on an island. Her father built a hotel on Appledore Island, and it became a hub for artists, creatives, and writers of New England during the late 19th century. With the natural beauty of the island and Celia's lovely garden, it's no wonder that Appledore became a muse for many. Today, Celia's garden is as enchanting as it was over 100 years ago. Celia grew cut flowers for her dad's hotel. She also wrote a best-selling book called An Island Garden. Today's book recommendation is Midwest Foraging by Lisa M. Rose. If you're a beginner forager, and most of us fall into that category, this beautifully formatted guide will be your go-to resource. Even advanced foragers find it helpful. Lisa's plant profiles include color photos, tips for identification, and excellent ideas for both eating and preserving your treasures. Lisa's friendly and matter-of-fact approach shines through in this work. She takes the fear out of foraging. Here's today's garden chore. August is the perfect time to sow winter salads for the greenhouse or cold frame. Though it's tempting to say, let us wait, wise gardeners know that WSRs, or winter salad requirements, are more fully satisfied when effort is made in August. Finally, here's something sweet to revive the little botanic spark in your heart. It was on this day in 2002 that Spaniards threw 120 tons of tomatoes at each other at the annual Tomatina Festival in Buñol, Spain. Every year, on the last Wednesday of August, the town of Buñol in Spain celebrates the biggest tomato fight in the world and Spain's messiest festival, La Tomatina. It's been a tradition since 1945 when some kids had a tomato fight in the town square. Now, every year, trucks bring in tons of tomatoes grown especially for the event. In the town square, a Spanish ham is attached to the top of a greased pole. Most years, climbers aren't able to reach the ham, but occasionally one climber will make this remarkable accomplishment. Then visitors and residents alike begin the tomato fight and revel in the red sauce. The tomato throwing spree attracts upwards of 50,000 visitors to Buñol every single year. Thanks for listening to The Daily Gardener, and remember, for a happy, healthy life, garden every day. The Daily Gardener is produced weekdays in lovely Maple Grove, Minnesota. You can find complete show notes over at thedailygardener.org, and be sure to share the show with your garden friends. You can find The Daily Gardener on all your favorite social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest, and of course, Facebook. While you're over at Facebook, don't forget to join the Daily Gardener community. Just search for these 3 words, Daily Gardener Community. The group will pop right up and then request to join. Finally, I want to thank my team at Podfly Productions, where my fabulous editor is Eric Begay. Have a great day in the garden, and we'll see you tomorrow.